And hello, my name is Jeff Mach, and I'm cancelled. This is my second or third attempt to tell this video, um, and I'm going to stop my desire to find the right shirt or the right moment, or I should actually have grabbed my microphone. I'm sorry about that, but hopefully I will be speaking loudly enough. Let me try to tell my story as simply as I can. In 2018, I ran some of the largest events of their kind in the world. That's probably not the right way to put it. In 2018, I ran the Steampunk World's Fair. It was the world's largest steampunk festival. It was a really, it was a steampunk festival that did a lot of really cool things and brought a lot of amazing steampunks together. And it was, in fact, at least one of the largest festivals in the world. We believe it was the largest. I don't know if it matters now, does it? And I ran something called the Wicked Winter Renaissance Fair, the Wicked Fair, which had many devoted followers back in the day, although it is hard to find them now, understandably. Um, and I ran something called, no, excuse me, co-ran Dark Force Fest, which is now, of course, Dark Side of the Con. Um, I co-ran that with Jet of Vampire Freaks. Um, we co-created that event. I'm very proud to see that it's now such a major, amazing show. Um, Let me get to my story, though. And I also ran kink events. I ran a weird kink event called the Geeky Kink Event. If you don't know kink, I'm gonna have to give you a moment of discussion about it. Um, so I was a very, 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 very heavy activist. I was very, 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 very woke. Um, and among other things, was prevailed upon by a bunch of activists with an idea that there was essentially no such thing as a false allegation of sexual misconduct of any kind. Um, this is a. It would be cool if this was true. If you ask Google the right way, or if you ask your ChatGPT the right way, it will still basically tell you this. It will still basically start off with, oh, only between 2 to 8% of all allegations are false. And then it will tell you the circumstances of the kind of allegations it means. Something like, for example, it is true. Something like only 2% of people have been accused of sexual assault, arrested for it, brought to trial, found not guilty, gotten out of the trial process, then had the other person arrested and had them um, for false allegations. Forgive me for not remembering the exact title. It's that rare, and won. That is indeed extremely rare, but that's not a good indicator of how rare it is for someone to, for example, say, um, this person tied me up and didn't do anything to me. I liked it at the time, but later on I got really upset that they didn't do anything to me, and I'm very, very hurt over it. That is a very different thing. So, for those of you who are not in the kink world, when you're in the kink world, you can have a great deal of kink contact that most people wouldn't think of as sex or sexual. Um, For example, you can tie people up when they're fully clothed, and they may not even get aroused by it. They may enjoy it, though. I have known some people who are very serious about shibari, the Japanese rope tying art, at which I'm terrible personally, um, who do mostly that. I know at least one person who is monogamously married and simply likes very long, slow situations where they tie people up. Um, so I was a firm believer, having been told by people who claim to have read the studies and then definitely misrepresented them, that um, there was no such thing as false allegations of sexual misconduct. So I was a firm advocate for that, and I advocated that for that in the kink community. I advocated for that in my events. And in the kink world, you can play with, if you are relatively popular in the New York metropolitan area where there are a lot of kink people. I don't know. I went to perhaps one kink party a month. I have friends who went to 3 to 5. You could play with, I don't know, 50, 100 people every month, potentially, if you want to. Many people way less. Some people somewhat more. Um, but you could play with a lot of people. You could have some kind of contact that the kink world would define as a kink act that most people probably wouldn't call a sex act. I'm not saying that these are not, it's not possible to have sex acts under this. I don't want to give you a long explanation, but you can have a great deal of that. In 2018, a whole bunch of kink organizers on FetLife, the kinky social network, suddenly got accused. A bunch of, especially, it started to be people who had been advocating for this Me Too idea that there are no false allegations. And one day, I got hit with a bunch of allegations. And the first couple were obviously lies. I could tell immediately that they were lies, but I also looked immediately and said, I just spent several years saying that this didn't happen. This is just happening. The effects this had on my life, and in general, my life philosophies, are huge, but not the story you are looking to hear. So, I'm going to keep this version of the video, but I may do a shorter version at some point. Here's, I think, what you kind of need to know. In 2018, a whole bunch of people were accused of basically, a bunch of people on FetLife were accused of a bunch of things, many of which you might not consider sexual at all, many of which you might consider very sexual. I have an unknown amount of allegations because no one has brought them to me. So I haven't engaged with any of these things directly since I basically was staring horrified at my screen that brief night in February 2018. Right before one of my events, by the way. Pretty specifically, it did hit specifically less than 2 weeks before the Wicked Faire when we were extremely vulnerable as a company and as an event. So I was staring at my screen thinking about this, and then let me cut to the chase, guys. For those of you who are in the kink world, we should probably have a separate conversation. For those who are not, if the whole bunch of stuff was not particularly comprehensible to you or even interesting, Google me. See if you can figure out that I'm actually accused of sexual assault of some kind. I have some people say things like, well, actually, my first allegation was my ex-girlfriend, whom I never had sex with, by the way, who claims that I had sex with her when she didn't want it. This would be terrible. This is terrible. I can't prove that it didn't happen, but also we can't prove that either of us exists because it's just people talking on the internet. I have not been convicted of a single crime. I have not been accused of a single crime. I have not been questioned about a single crime. I have not had the police even breathe in my direction. In fact, it's exactly the opposite. My wife gets constant harassment. My family gets frequent harassment. My friends get harassment. The people around me get harassment. My events get harassment. People do not come at me because they know that I can say from my whole heart, I didn't do it. What the hell are you talking about? And also, they understand that I want to know what I'm being accused of, and I can't fight it if I don't know. And I usually do not know what I'm accused of until way after everyone else has heard. In 2023, I tried to come back with an event called the Wicked World's Fair. I've written an incredibly long article about it. Among other things, a bunch of angry people who claimed to be vendors kicked the VIPs out of the the VIP feedback session that they had paid for, which had been a tradition at my events for almost 2 decades, certainly a decade and a half. Kicked them out, and screamed at me until I screamed at them to shut up really loudly. They caught me screaming, and it's on the internet. It's very, very popular. I'm told I look horrible. Sometime I will find the strength to see it. I screamed, shut up, because I wanted to talk to them. They didn't shut up. I didn't have anything else to do. I've written an incredibly long article about this at jeffmach.com, jeffmach.com. If you check out the Wicked World's Fair, it's incredibly long. It's unbelievably detailed. I have a ridiculously, insanely large amount of receipts about it. So let me cut to the most basic part of what I would say is going on that I think exemplifies this best. For the Wicked World's Fair, we had this huge amount of people coming. We had a sold-out hotel. We had a bunch of tickets. We had this great show. And right before the show, we had been using, this was just before ticket companies were just putting money right in your bank account as they do now. Eventbrite, which we've been using for some time, had just introduced its, what was it, Instant Pay? I'm going to say Instant Pay. Again, I'm telling my story. If you want me to go back and find each and every receipt, go to my website or contact me. I'll be glad to give you so many receipts. Please, do ask. If I fumble anything or get any words wrong, come at me with it. I'll admit my mistakes if I make them. I'll figure out what's going on, but I have receipts for everything that could be proven, and for things that can't be proven, I'm afraid, I don't want to say this, but generally they don't exist. And I'm sorry for people who are upset with me, but, if I had an interaction with you 12 years ago or 15 years ago where we didn't have sex and we interacted in a kink setting for like 20 minutes and neither of us naked, and you liked it at the time, and then later on you decided that you hated me and you wrote about it, which is a basic example of a lot of the complaints that are against me. I not only have no defense against it, I'm sorry if the person who actually is involved is upset with me, but as you can tell, I have no idea what to do. I'm not really accused of anything, so I can't defend myself. Right. Sorry for the outburst. 2023. I will tell you this. I do not remember and have been afraid to look it up because it's frankly traumatic, and I'm sorry to admit this weakness. In 2023, Friday or Saturday, we'd been getting this big chunk of money, and so we were spending on advertising, we were investing in the event. At some point, I guess I'll go over my accounting as well if people want to see it, but that'll take some time. And suddenly, we hit the button for the money to go into our account, and boom, vanished. I went to tech support, like, oh, temporary glitch. I will cut the story very short. Here's what happened. With money coming in, with an event happening on the Thursday or Friday, and yeah, no, I don't remember. It's all a blur. The money stopped coming into our accounts. And Eventbrite began maintaining unbelievably firmly through its tech support that it was a temporary glitch. Let me tell you that basically, money kept coming in. We had plenty of money. We had plenty of money to do the event, but it kept vanishing. So, for example, the Sound and Light folks, who completely understandably wanted to get paid, and by the way, knew I had a bad reputation from 2018. Thank you so much, 2018. They had to leave. Well, that basically made our stage fall apart, and if it had not been for an extremely heroic Chris Cyanide, who, for no money at all, basically put his own work and his own performance aside to run our stage for us in an emergency, the entire event would absolutely have collapsed. It would have been completely successful. But here's what happened. Eventbrite stalled me so insanely, unbelievably hard you would not believe it. They stalled and stalled and stalled and stalled. I don't think I slept. I used to be a chronic insomniac, and I used to be very serious about sleep. I don't think I've ever stayed up for 3 days in a row before. But I stayed up for 3 days because every night I was talking to Eventbrite for hours, chatting with them. I'm sure I have a bunch of the logs somewhere, but, this is stuff that they would need to disprove. This is what happened. Eventbrite stopped all of our money. Eventbrite worked very hard to convince me that they were just about to get me the money any minute now, in every possible way. It'll be there at 9 a.m. It'll be there in half an hour. There's a glitch. Oh, wait. Oh, the money's there. Go check. Everything you could possibly think of. And, of course, I kept coming back to, guys, the money's not there. I do not remember how the discussion went by Saturday or so. But here's what happened. Eventbrite said Monday, oh, we were told reliably by somebody that your event was canceled. But looks like it wasn't, so okay, now you can have your money. And then Eventbrite, which has a way louder social presence than I do. I was, of course, at the moment, busy being blown apart on the internet by all these people who are understandably angry. By the way, we were not asked for a lot of refunds by attendees for that event. Attendees loved the event. Most of the vendors for that event actually loved the event. A huge number of vendors hated the event, but it's hard to know if they hated it after, for example. So, Eventbrite, by the way, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. I will probably make a shorter video. I apologize to the folks who asked me to make this, but I'll try to keep this to 15, 16 minutes most. Almost done then. Eventbrite said, oh yeah, we heard your event was canceled reliably. We investigated internally, so we didn't talk to you about it at all. I don't think they even mentioned whether or not they talked. But here's the money. And then they made a huge statement saying, oh, we gave all the money, Jeff Mach. Jeff Mach has all the money. Well, yes, I have all the money after everybody who needed to get paid is gone, after we've incurred every possible fee, every fine, after we spent every penny we had on emergency stuff, after every plan we made was destroyed, after, everything was wrecked. Yeah, they paid us the money that was able to come in from an event that was thriving and which they literally, not figuratively, literally destroyed in the middle of the event, which still was making money. We just stopped accepting money from people who wanted to pay us because we no longer knew what the hell was going on with Tickets Candy. It was that crazy. It was that bad. That's not something you can make up. Now Eventbrite is a large corporation. They are welcome to come after me. They can. I've documented this. They can't because this happened. And if they come after me, I want to know what happened too. I want everyone to know what happened. I would love to hear. But yes, why did Eventbrite do this? I am assuming that Eventbrite heard that I'm a really terrible person. A lot of people have heard I'm a really terrible person. I've been asked to be quiet in a lot of places because I might discredit those places because they've heard I'm a terrible person. I get this. Oh, the business side. I didn't even get to the business side. The business side, let me give it to you in 1 minute. The Steampunk World's Fair, like most of my events, ran in hotels. My deal with the hotels was generally, we will fill your entire hotel, but we need all of your conference space. We need you to be very accepting of all these weirdos. We need you to do some nice things for us. We'll make you a ton of money, and we will pay you probably a small amount of money, or depending if the Steampunk World's Fair, a massive amount of money in catering fees that people were happy to buy. So for the Steampunk World's Fair, we had a massive amount of catering sold. We had both hotels sold out. People had been clamoring to get into them. You remember the hotel fiasco with, um, I keep calling it Dark Forest Fest. I'm sorry, guys. Um, do you remember the fiasco over that? It was like that every year with our events. All right. The people who've just experienced the Dark Forest Fest hotel fiasco know exactly the story now that I think about it. Now, Jet, by the way, actually went out of his way to make that event succeed after I was canceled by everybody. In ways that would not make you upset with him if you hate me, Jet worked with me to make that event succeed. I have no idea how Jet feels about me, but it would be dishonorable for me to not say that. Jet went out of his way to do that. He worked very hard to make sure that event went through, whereas Tammy Ships for the Wicked World's Fair called me up and said something like, Jeff, I'm missing, what was it, $12,000, Tammy? 15? To pay the Sound and Light people. You still have a huge company credit card. Sorry, you still have a huge personal credit card that you use for the company, I believe. It's been a long time, guys. The memories are bad. Would you mind paying this? And I just paid. And I'm like, yeah, let's make the event happen. Because after all, we're friends and we're going to try to help each other. Tammy Smith is Ships. Sorry, Tammy Smith, whoever you are. Tammy Ships is not my friend. All right, Michael Whitehouse was on live internet. The hotels were fully booked, and he said this, basically. Go look it up if it's still up, but Michael can make a statement, I'm sure. He said, oh yeah, the event is not happening that weekend, but we're doing another event that's basically that event of a different name on a different weekend. Now, I should check my exacts, but if Michael had said they were doing the exact same event, which he didn't, I'm pretty sure he said they were doing something called the Silver Phoenix Festival, on a different weekend, you just told a live internet that is unsure of what is going on, that is stressed out about this huge event, that the event is not happening that weekend. Well, the Embassy Suites emptied out right there. Bang. The Embassy Suites emptied out in minutes because they're a corporate hotel. Sunny Chaudhry, the general manager of the Radisson, now the Holiday Inn, drove to the hotel, I think with his sons, sat at the front desk for hours, telling people, of course, the events were not canceled. There was just a misunderstanding. Please wait. Held them off for 3 days, and then the Phoenix Festival people gave up and were like, yes, okay, sorry, this whole thing's broken. And by the way, we haven't actually transferred any of the contracts away from Jeff Mach, so technically, even though we've taken complete control and told the entire world Jeff can't be involved and not let Jeff be involved, technically Jeff is still going to be actually liable for this, so we can just leave without anything bad happening to us. And they did. Damn, my story is almost 20 minutes long. I'd like to thank Brian Graupner for encouraging me. I'd like to thank a lot of other people, but at this point, I'm not entirely sure who will be happier to be named by me than not. Chad, if my naming you is bad, or if you're mad at me right now, I'm sorry, but honestly, what has happened with the event that we made that you worked to keep alive is amazing. I'm proud of you for it. Everyone else, guys, you know what you did. You should actually be ashamed of yourselves. You should not be trying to throw this stuff at me. My name is Jeff Mach. I'm really happy to answer questions. I'm sorry this video is so long. Have a great day, night, whatever you're doing. I definitely need to go feed my cats. Good night, folks.